Okay, this one is a pretty cool one, flip arguments. So this is like Lodash's flip. You pass in a t, some thing. In this case, it's it's always going to be a function. But so you pass in a function, and we see here we have arg0 string, arg1 number, arg2 boolean. It returns void in this case, and we get the kind of flip of that out. So boolean number string instead of string number boolean. Yeah. Fun times over here on this one. So where would we start? I guess we can start with the generic constraint. Always. I'll help out with that. But where would you get going on this one?
So we're gonna have to take the args as a tuple, I'm assuming.
Mm-hmm.
And I think what we want to do possibly is use a mapped type on that, but I'm not 100% sure.
We can use a I'll give you one hint. Like almost all of the solutions that I found use a helper of some kind.
Okay.
So
we're going to be doing some recursion here.
Yeah.
Is that right? Yeah. Okay.
Because like ultimately, if we can slot in, this is really where the work is going to be. I don't feel like it's cheating to show you this part because so we can use inference to grab the head and tail, and then here we can do reverse passing in the tail and then put the head on the last section. And the base case is just going to be an empty array, so that's fine. So really where the work is going to happen is here.
Well, not too much of it anyway, but
true. Yeah.
So what we need to do is return a function. So I think the very first thing to do would be to go ahead and get the base for that out. Okay. So I have that. Yeah.
Like that.
That's pretty close, I think, to what we want. It might be simple enough. I'm not sure, but let's see if I can do just that.
Yeah, you got it.
Yeah. Well, that's pretty easy then.
Yeah, it is. There's a pretty much equivalent way of writing this. I've seen some people do where instead of, let me see if I can put these on the screen next to each other here. Let's just rename this as 0. You can do the same job with infer, like right in place. If you look at the definitions for parameters, here it's on the screen on my hover, that's exactly what it is. Same thing for return type. It's doing that inferencing right there in line. So I'd say it's pretty close. It's just fine to do it like this, in my opinion. I like the way you did it. Let's see, there are some other alternatives I found as well. Let's see, is this altogether, oops, shouldn't be commented. Is this altogether too different? Infer a, reverse. Oh, this is pretty close to the above. Flip arguments. Let's look at this one. Oh, I have to uncomment this as well. 2. Here's another one I found. Oh, this is exactly like the one we had. Okay, I'm sorry. This third one looks chunky, so hopefully this is actually different. I'm like striking out over here. All right, here we are. Flip arguments, number.
No, they've just inlined the helper essentially in this case.
Okay, yeah. So
it's basically the same thing every time.
Yes. And what's interesting, okay, I remember this one. What's interesting about this one is they do a thing that I think is bad and should be avoided. They inline the helper, but in order to inline the helper, you need to kind of have some way of holding state while you recurse. And the way to do that in TypeScript is usually this. You see the use of an accumulator. You pass it an empty array as a default because you don't actually want a consumer of flip arguments, like somebody who uses this type, to pass something in there. You are using that to go kind of deep down into the caves. The thing that's tricky is that people may not understand that or know that, and you might not do a good job of it. And you might get weird, undefined behaviors when somebody does actually pass something in. That's why I like the example. Let's get rid of all these other ones. That's why I really like the example we came up with. I think it's way more straightforward. It uses reverse, but reverse in itself has this mutable state that it keeps passing. Well, it's immutable, I guess, technically, but it has this state that it passes recursively to itself. And you don't ever get to see that on the surface. Look, there's only one T here, but this one has T and ACC, the second generic parameter. So something to avoid if you can avoid it. Usually if you find yourself writing something like this, it's good to take a step back and think, is there a way that I can extract this thing somehow into its own helper type that I don't export, that people don't have to deal with? And after all, it also reads a lot better too. I feel like I can understand what this one does really easily, whereas understanding what in the world is going on in this one is a challenge, to say the least. Yeah. Any thoughts, John?
Yeah, no, I think this one comes out pretty elegant. The reverse helper is very easy to understand, because it's just one by one reversing the tuple. And it just goes to show how intuitive TypeScript can be. It's almost too intuitive sometimes, to the point where you're like, is it really that easy to do it?
Yeah, I know what you mean. Cool. All right, well, that's it